In May of 2024, 28 people from Peace Lutheran Church in Gahanna, Ohio, set off for a 2-week Spanish Fiesta. This trip would encompass well over 2,000 miles of travel, and we would see 17 cities in just 14 days. Our trip began in the capital city of Madrid. We were excited to meet our guide. When traveling to Spain, many of us had imagined a Spanish guide. None of us would have guessed she, in fact, would be Scottish. This is Kaye Maxwell, and she has lived in Spain for over 20 years. Her love for this country was evident. Daily, she shared knowledge, history, and humor, and made the trip delightful. Our first day of travel ended with an early dinner at the hotel. Everyone was energized, alert, and full of energy. Or maybe I'm exaggerating. The Rue Plaza España, our hotel, offered amazing rooftop views from the bar. Patrons not staying at the hotel had to pay $25 simply to get in. After a good night's rest, it was onto the bus for a tour of Madrid led by our local guide, Jose. We set off down the Calle de Alcalá. A highlight of the day was touring the Prado Museum. Now, this incredible museum houses one of the world's largest art collections, from historic artists like Velázquez, Goya, and El Greco. The Royal Palace of Madrid is home to King Felipe and Queen Letizia. Who knew that Spain's king is the long-lost brother of Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns? Beneath the palace is the Campo del Moro, beautiful gardens and a majestic tree line. Perfect for a late evening stroll. In the afternoon, those who chose the optional excursion set off to explore the incredible city of three cultures, otherwise known as Toledo. This is one of Europe's best preserved walled medieval cities, dating back to the 13th century. The views and architecture of Toledo are magnificent. Named City of Three Cultures because for many years, Jewish, Islamic, and Christians lived together in harmony, and each gave influence to this amazing city. Day 3 was a travel day, which included a brief stop in Segovia. This quaint village is home to a very well-preserved Roman aqueduct. From there, we traveled to our lunch stop of Burgos. We walked around this city taking note of the Cathedral of Santa Maria and its flamboyant Gothic style. After spending one night in Vitoria, it was off to Bilbao for a visit to the Museum of Modern Art, the famous Guggenheim. While the puppy wasn't in full bloom, it's not hard to imagine as it was still stunning. While modern art seems to be something people either love or hate, this museum is filled with fascinating creations. From Bilbao, we set off toward Pamplona. Our lunch stop in between was the beach city of San Sebastian. This has become a destination for Europeans looking to get away to the beach, and due to the crowds we experienced, many of us wondered how much more crowded it would get in season. We found our way into a packed restaurant, and even though we stood to eat, this small anchovy on bread was delicious. Next was Pamplona. Of course, the city known for running with the bulls. Made famous by Ernest Hemingway's book, The Sun Also Rises. We walked in reverse the entire route. Kaye described how crowded the streets get and the importance, if you choose to run, of taking it seriously. Rioja wine pairing and dinner followed at the delicious Basa Burra restaurant.
It's a wine that comes from the year also 2020. It comes from the low part of Rioja region. It's a wine that is based on this local.
Day 5 and it's time to make the 311-mile trip to Barcelona. Along the way, we stopped at the charming town of Saragossa. In the center of town is the Basilica, the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Pilar. From there, we arrived in the famous city of Barcelona. Known for hosting the 1992 Olympic Games, this city is filled with tourists, taking in the sights and sounds of this Mediterranean metropolis. A stroll down the well-known La Rambla leads to Boqueria, Spain's oldest food market. Spices, juices, ice cream, and amazing fresh fruits are all on beautiful display. The next morning, some of us traveled by bus an hour outside of Barcelona up a steep mountainside to the holy space known as Montserrat. Some of the peaks on the top soar 4,000 feet in altitude. Our guide, Elizabeth, shared with us that for the Catalonian people, this mountaintop and its monastery have become sacred. The Santa Maria de Montserrat Abbey's Basilica houses the Moreneta, or Black Madonna. It is a mystery how she turned black, but for many it is a miracle, and people come from all over the world to visit and walk past her. The views from Montserrat are incredible, and I especially enjoyed watching all the cyclists climb the challenging switchbacks. Later that afternoon, it was back to Barcelona, and Antoni Gaudi's amazing Sagrada de Familia, a basilica that's been under construction for more than 130 years. It's the world's longest unfinished construction project. The outside is designed to tell the story of Jesus Christ, from birth to resurrection. The inside, however, is the true masterpiece. The light representing the seasons goes from cool blues to warm and intense yellows and oranges. This is a can't-miss sight of Barcelona. We then traveled up the Palace of Montjuic, where its steps provide one of the best views of beautiful Barcelona below. That evening, some enjoyed the fine art of sangria making, Spain's most popular drink. Day 7, and another 230 miles down the freeway, we found ourselves in Valencia, being led by our spirited guide, Chantel. She led us through this beautiful city, which is highlighted by the Arts and Sciences Complex. This ultra-modern complex is the largest of its kind in Europe. Here we tried a drink made from tiger nuts. Not what you think. It's called horchata. We also enjoyed watching Chantel scream, "Pickpockets! Pickpockets!" Then we saw 2 young women scamper away, visibly upset that they had been called out. That evening, back at the hotel, we were treated to paella. We learned that traditional paella is made in a huge pan, and then the chefs present it with pride before serving. Day 13, back on the bus for another 336-mile drive to Granada. After dinner together, some of us went out exploring with strict instructions from Kaye of how to find our way back to the hotel using the number 8 bus. We had no trouble finding the right bus, but after 30 minutes, we realized we were heading in the wrong direction. As you can see, we were all visibly upset, and it stopped us from having a good time. The next morning, after a relaxing rest, we were back at it and to the Alhambra with its Nasrid Palace. It became home to wealthy sultans and later became the royal court of Ferdinand and Isabella. It was here that Christopher Columbus received a royal endorsement for his expedition. The palace is surrounded by the amazing water gardens. As you can see, our weather each day and every day was perfect. Eliza was our guide for the Alhambra. She was another example of how each of our local guides were filled with knowledge, but also passion to pass on what they've learned about these important parts of global history. 103 miles down the road, we arrived at the gorgeous Mediterranean beach town of Torremolinos in Costa del Sol. For many of our group, this stop was exactly what they needed to rest their weary bodies. Our hotel was the beautiful Malia Costa del Sol. That afternoon, some took the optional excursion to Mijas. This enchanting whitewashed village tucked into a mountainside was once part of a historic fisherman's district. Today, its narrow cobblestone streets are filled with quaint little shops. The excursion ended with a 4-course seafood meal, which included the local delicacy, salted white fish. Wine also might have been a part of this feast. The next day was also about food. In Malaga, after touring, we had a late lunch at El Pimpe, Antonio Banderas's restaurant. After several rounds of a variety of tapas, we waddled back to the bus and eventually found a beach or a pool at the hotel. Day 11 and off to Gibraltar, and eventually Seville. Kaye reminded us to make sure to have our passports ready because Gibraltar is actually part of the United Kingdom. As we neared this city made on the side of a massive rock, Kaye excitedly announced that we had a rare, clear view. Not only did we have a great, clear view of Gibraltar, but the continent of Africa behind it. It was evident to me why the UK is reluctant to give this area up, as it's the passageway from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean Ocean. Once through customs, we met our guides, Clive and Gary, and on their buses, we went and zipped through town and then up the mountain to St. Michael's Caves. These caverns were beautiful rock formations, amplified by music and a stunning light show. Outside, it was time to meet some of the local celebrities, the Barbary Macaques. Kaye warned us that they love to take hats, phones, and food, so watch your belongings. Legend says that if the monkeys disappear from Gibraltar, so will the British, which is why during World War II, with their numbers dwindling, Winston Churchill sent people to North Africa for replacements. After our short time in Gibraltar, we were off to Seville. We arrived later that afternoon and toured the Real Maestanza Caballeria. Try saying that fast. Otherwise known as the Royal Bull Ring. For centuries, matadors here have confronted bulls in a show of pageantry and pride. Even though bullfighting continues to be controversial, it lives on as part of the Spanish tradition. That evening after dinner, some of us wandered over to the Plaza de España, and we found it breathtaking. It was built in 1928 for the Ibero-American Exposition. These beautiful buildings mix elements of Baroque, Renaissance, and Moorish Revival styles of Spanish architecture. The next day, we set off with our local guide, Maria, to experience the Casa del Palatos and its gardens. Built in the late 1400s, this palace is stunning. Well-trained artists were busy slowly restoring some of the mosaics. We then toured the magical maze of tapas, flamenco, and cafes in the historic streets of Santa Cruz. Those who chose the optional excursion got to go into the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Sea, or the Seville Cathedral, This is Europe's third largest church, with 80 chapels, 15 ornate doors, and the tomb, or at least one of them, of Christopher Columbus himself. That evening, it was time for flamenco. This style of Spanish dance is filled with enchantment, passion, spirit. We enjoyed a 3-course dinner while we watched the sensational professional performers convey their powerful tales of love and joy and pain through rhythm, music, and dance. Day 18, and it was time to travel back 360 miles to Madrid. However, along the way, we stopped at the charming town of Cordoba, and here we met Kaye's good friend, our local guide, Luis. He took us through the amazing Mosque of Cordoba. It's a Catholic church today, but it was originally a mosque built in the 8th century. Luis loved to use phrases like amazing, sensational, and incredible. And when he was ready to describe the next part of the tour, he would begin with, well, well, well. He loves this mosque, or this cathedral, and his passion for it made us appreciate it all the more. From Cordoba, it was back to Madrid for our farewell dinner. We were treated to endless wine, good food, and some Spanish music. We celebrated Kaye, who was a magnificent guide. Experiencing Spain filled each of us with memories we will never forget. It was a lot to take in, as these tours always are, but we are all fortunate to have gone on the journey with one another. The only thing better than sharing new experiences is doing it with people you've grown to love.